I think being a sociologist allows you to see the wood for the trees. And actually, when you're in meetings which might not actually seem to have a terribly important function, you can often see them for what they are. You can actually apply a sociological imagination to bureaucratic process. In fact, that's the only way of actually surviving in some of those contexts. But you're also clearly faced with a set of difficult political contradictions, because what you might want to do as an active researcher or as a sociologist actually doesn't always mesh terribly well with what you perhaps are forced to do, that you need to do, in relation to having some kind of collective responsibility for an institution. So being an academic manager under the current conditions can be a very, very trying and difficult, and I would say morally difficult position to take if you have an a priori commitment to a kind of a sociological position. Well, fundamentally, I'm quite old. I'm in my mid-50s, and I had a strange academic career, which meant that I started my career very, very early, about 22. So I was in the academy in the very early 1980s, in a world where word processors were just coming online, where most people couldn't type, where typewriters and Tipex were a very, very important part of life, where one had to write out and type and put in people's pigeonholes a memo that other people would write in response to. So it was a much slower process, but the actual process of cognition, of the production of text was very, very different. People would write in longhand and then type it up because you couldn't move text around. You wouldn't draft straight onto the page. So the whole technology of academic production was completely, completely different. So it was slower. It was far, far slower. The mode of communication, one's daily activity was completely different. You didn't walk into your office and turn on your computer. There was no computer to turn on. You spoke more. You debated more. You read more. And actually, you didn't know what was in the world. The Social Science Citation Index was a big orange book that you had to go and look at in the library to look up a reference. So it's a very, very different world. And it jars me sometimes where people argue that nothing much has changed. Things have changed fundamentally, and they changed fundamentally very, very, very quickly when it did change. And I still remember it, and I moved into a very, very different world of academic production. I'm not saying it was any better necessarily, but it was certainly very, very different.